What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of an Invicta Lifestyle. I'm your favorite nephew, Trapvision 3D, and I'm not at home, as you can tell, but I'm with two of the coolest guys in Indianapolis, and I am in an 80s baby's dream house. All right?
Welcome to my lair.
It's the lair. Y'all seen it. So, like I said before, I told you guys, if you seen my last video, I gave you a sneak peek of who I was going to be tributing to today, and that's who we here. And happy belated birthday, Mr. Stan Lee. But that's who we're going to do honor to today. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking. I'm going to let these guys go. And since this is his lair, I'm going to let him go first.
Yeah, so kind of talking about what Stan Lee has sort of meant to all of us. I think for me personally, my mother got me into collecting comic books when I was a kid. She would, probably what, 5, 6 years old, something like that, maybe a little older.
Yeah.
And my mom would come home with comic books. I don't even know where she got them, probably from the grocery store, and they had multi-packs, where it's like 5 or 6 comics in a package, and that's how I got started into Batman, and I think we got some World's Finest comic books. We got X-Men, Spider-Man, and those are kind of the ones I sort of latched onto as I got older. But there was getting into the comic book scene. I remember growing up that comic books weren't the coolest thing to be into. We actually just get picked on for reading comic books and collecting and a lot of these comic books. And now it's not cool if you're not into them. Kids won't remember getting picked on for liking these things beforehand. Now they're super popular and they're the highest grossing films of all time. But I mean, Stan Lee's influence. I mean, him having sort of the vision of creating these larger than life characters. I mean, inspired my brother and I to draw our own comic books in high school and middle school and even afterwards, and drawing our own posters and just getting creative with pre-existing characters and our own characters. And a lot of it had to do with just sort of Stan Lee's vision for the industry. I mean, he was constantly in front of just comic books in general. He was in front of the screen. He was in front of the news. He was in front of trying to be that champion for comic books that they really needed. And when we were growing up, he wasn't. Even when we think about it in the early '80s and things, when we were getting into comic books, like Stan Lee wasn't as popular or as well known as he is today. He wasn't back then. A lot of kids our age wouldn't know who Stan Lee was. They wouldn't know, like a lot of people. Adults wouldn't know who Stan Lee was. And now if he's not in a Marvel movie. It's like it's noticeable when he's in there, and it's kind of fun to sort of pick out where he's going to be at. And you see him for even 2 seconds in a movie, and that's like the most exciting part of the whole movie. I mean, he's had a huge impact on just our generation, people growing up, and it really was him championing comic books is what turned the whole industry around, and. That's kind of where we are today, is really because of Stan Lee, I think, more than any other person. I mean, 50 years from now, are people going to remember Todd McFarlane? Are they going to remember Jim Lee? I mean, maybe, but Stan Lee will be known way beyond all those other people. So,
I know personally for me, I remember getting Spider-Man coloring books, and I remember that was kind of like, I feel like my introduction with Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus and things like that. Some of the characters like Green Goblin and stuff. And I just remember doing that as a kid, and it's pretty cool stuff. And it's funny, Stan Lee was trying to make comic books a household thing. It was trying to make it popular. I mean, you look at all the cartoons, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, X-Men, and things like that. He would always do the opening narration for every one of those cartoons.
Welcome. This is Stan Lee of Marvel Comics warning you to look around you. Your classmates, your friends. You never know which one of them may be a mutant, a person born with strange and wondrous powers.
He was really trying to push that product because he knew that these characters had lives worth knowing about and inspiring. All these great stories and stuff like that.
Did he do intros for the '90s X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons as well?
He did for Spider-Man for sure. He was actually featured as Stan Lee in the last episode of Spider-Man, the animated series, where he got to basically show off the universe to Spider-Man as Stan Lee. He brought Spider-Man into the real world or whatever. It's pretty interesting. And like I said. I think about all the stuff that actually got me collecting. The first thing for when it came to Marvel the first thing I started collecting was these Marvel Universe series cards. They were they had probably 5 different series, but the first 3 I thought were the best ones. So I collected all those, and they came with holograms and stuff like that. And they even had a card specifically for Stan Lee. It was the Mr. Marvel card I have down here, and but it's pretty like it really drew me in because the characters were like, they had stats of the characters on the back, like their stories, and did you know, like little facts about them, like, oh, that's pretty cool. And so you got to know these little intricate details about each one of the characters. So it was really cool, and that's what I think inspired me to start really collecting comic books and getting into the comic books scene. And he's inspired me collecting like up to 10 long boxes full of comic books now, and it's still growing. These True Believers comic books, they're $1. But I mean, you get the first appearance of Thor, Iron Man, X-Men, Black Panther, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, all the characters, and it's amazing. I'm still waiting on the Hulk. Don't know why they haven't released the Hulk yet, but maybe they're just waiting for something. I don't know what. Punisher and all these other characters. Oh my gosh, it's great stuff. And Stan Lee has actually spilled over into one of my other collecting hobbies, and that's Masters of the Universe. And back in 2013, they had the Stan Lee's Kamikaze Expo 2013. They actually created a character for Stan Lee called Standor. And really cool character. I really wish I could have gotten it signed or found one that was signed. But they play him off as the creator of the entire universe for the Master Universe characters. He was one of the creative hands. And honestly, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Stan Lee in the Marvel Universe, I believe, is called the one above all. He's the guy who created everything. So when he's the power that's the greatest in all the the Marvel Universe, and so he's the kind of creating factor behind the whole thing. And he also there's a theory that he's also the one above all in every one of the movies. So when you see him in every one of the Marvel movies, like, that's actually the one above all, and he's just taking part in like the stories that he's creating. So it's actually pretty cool to think about it like that. So.
Maybe he'll be the one to back in Thanos for. But it's talking about the re-releases of these early older comic books. They're called True Believers, and that was Stan Lee's quote.
Yeah, he used to call everybody True Believers.
Yeah, those are the people who believed in comics, who believed in something more than just being confined to this world. It's like Stan Lee had this great ability to sort of create different modes of, I guess, inspiration for various different people. I mean, you had things like Captain America and the Avengers. Think about people. It's sort of like it pushed, patriotism. I mean, he had characters in there pushing X-Men, accepting people who were different. I mean, you had Fantastic Four looking more like family. You had Spider-Man, who was a lot like the people who used to read comic books back in the day. They were nerdy kids, and this was a guy who got picked on for being a nerd, but he was still able to step outside and be the hero. Yeah. And that's what we always wanted as kids growing up. We want to be the hero. We want to be those people, and those are the people that Stan Lee really wanted to encourage to step up and be the hero. Like, it's okay that you were different. It's okay that something bad happened in your life. It was okay. You could rise above that. You could be better. You could have pride in your country. You could have pride in who you were. You could have pride in your friends, and because everyone's uniqueness is what adds to the whole. There's a lot of these strong stories and metaphors that Stan Lee really pushed in the movie. In the movies you can kind of see, but mostly in the comic books and the old cartoons, things like that. That had these great morals of the story and things, and that's what Stan Lee was. And even until his dying day, I mean, you can find his last video online, and he's talking about his fans, and he's talking about how he's hoping to be back up on his feet, and but it was all about his fans. He was about us, and that's what his mentality was, and that's why
so it made him so special.
Yeah, it's why he's going to be revered for years to come, when a lot of these other great comic book creators in 50 to 100 years are probably going to be forgotten. Even some of the best ones, because they didn't push a genre on this. I mean, you think about the heroes that we look at nowadays are sort of like, our pantheon of gods, like, the mythology that we adhere to nowadays. I mean, people are going to know these characters for hundreds of years from now, because of what Stan Lee did. He's essentially, I mean, he's up there with things like Shakespeare and some of the other great, people that we hear about, in history. Like, he's going to be one of those guys, and we got to live during the time when he was around creating this stuff or helping push it.
It's pretty amazing.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting time to be, alive. I mean, think about the people who created the Greek gods back in the day. It's like these stories that came about and people pushed them and. Thor. But like, but those those have survived for thousands of years, and it's just because they were stories that were told, and these are today's stories, and they're these huge blockbusters, and people are just going to know these characters because of the films, because of the comics, because of what Stan Lee did, just for generations to come. It's gonna be crazy, and. People wonder what it was like to be us when we got to, meet him and shake his hand and see him at a convention and and see all the videos he put out and dedicated to his fans. He was loyal to us. That's something that's really rare, even in the comic industry today.
Yep.
There just aren't comic book creators that are loyal to the fans anymore. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, I honestly believe there'll never be another Stan Lee, period. There'll never be another, I don't care. And I just feel like Stan Lee have a bunch of spinoffs. People will try to imitate what he's doing, what he's done. When me and Tonywhoa was talking about this, I was talking to a few people about Stan Lee. You think about this. You have He-Man. Yep. You have Marvel Comics. You got the comic books. You have pictures. You have your own renditions. Mm-hmm. You have watches. And here's the thing. One of the reasons why I like Invicta so much, it's not, I love the watches, true enough. But it's more of what connects people. Mm-hmm. What makes people, unique and stuff like that, all come together. Yeah. I went on a cruise last year, and I was completely blown away about all these people. Everybody's, most people had the same watch, but everybody had a story. Oh, yeah. Everybody was just interested in stuff. And I think back when I was little. I remember Captain America was the very first toy that I had that I can remember dating back. And my mother has a picture of me. And I had my Spider-Man underoos on. I don't care about y'all laughing. But I had my Spider-Man underoos, man. I would go to sleep with this Captain America thing every day. And had the shield. And I remember being, I think I was about 8 or 9. And my mom bought me the shield. I had the shield, had the mask and everything. And we were in the neighborhood just going back and forth. And of course there were some people that didn't like it. Like, hey, you're a nerd, you're a goof, and all this other stuff. But this is what I love so much about Stan Lee is it didn't matter. Because there's a character for everybody on this planet.
Sure.
Everybody on this planet. This man was a genius ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And you remember back in the 90s, he set forth in motion all the movies that we're watching now. He put a format of all the movies. He said, okay, I'm going to come out with these movies. They're going to hit the silver screen. And look what we got. Yeah. Like you said, dude, we had the best movies ever. And God, dog, I can't.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see where the film industry went to because it was originally, like Chris was saying, it was sort of embarrassed about the. That's why, like, when you watch The Punisher didn't wear the Punisher symbol. I don't even know if he maybe called himself Punisher or something. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren's. Yeah. It's just one of those things that like they were afraid to step into that realm. I think partially because they were afraid it was going to appeal to too small of a crowd. But then you look at what happened when X-Men came out, and then Spider-Man, and then it was Blade. It was the first one.
Yep.
Michael Keaton Batman. Yeah. And so you start they started getting a little more popular, and it's just crazy to see where it's ended up now. Like Chris was saying, it's like if you're a big time star and you don't end up in one of the superhero guys, like how big was your career really? That's yeah. Which Marvel movie did you appear in? I'm trying to figure out.
I look at actors sometimes and I see the ones that'll have just sort of side roles or bit parts, and I'm like, man, you wasted it. Like I literally think that I'm like, oh, you could have been somebody.
Lawrence Fishburne. You could have been the next Professor X.
You could have been a contender. It's just, it's funny to think that, right?
Yeah.
I see a big name actor, but he's playing a bit part in a Marvel movie, and it's like, oh man, like you're never gonna get to be someone big now, you know.
I think about that too. That's weird that you put that. Yeah, because I was.
Or you could be Chris Evans and be two characters. You could be Human Torch and Captain America.
Right.
Actually, the funny thing about that is when Stan Lee was creating the Marvel comics, like he would reuse characters. So the guy who was Steve Rogers looked exactly like Johnny Storm they looked exactly the same, and it's just funny that he actually is playing both characters. It's actually kind of a funny little side story. But something I alluded to in a segment before was basically that Michael Keaton was ashamed to be Batman. When he would do interviews, he would actually wait to say anything about the Batman movie till the very last couple minutes of the interview that he would do, and because he was afraid of being typecast or whatever it was, and it just wasn't cool to be thought of as a comic book character because everybody thought that was too childish. I mean, if you look back on the guy who played as Bill Bixby did Hulk, the reason why he changed his name to David Banner instead of Bruce Banner, he said Bruce Banner sounded too much, and it wasn't because of Bruce being a gay name. Like that wasn't this. He said, and I heard him say it. He said basically it was because it sounded too much like a comic book character name. And so he loved the idea of being the Hulk, but he wanted it to be more of a drama than it was a comic book movie, like comic book show. So that's why the TV show took on the form that it did. Amazing stuff. But I think Bill Bixby was an amazing, David Banner, Bruce Banner, whatever you want to call it, but he was really good. And like I said, it's these kind of people that bring these characters to life. When you think of the Hulk, you might think of Bill Bixby, you might think of Lou Ferrigno, you might think of all these people just playing different characters, and I mean, now it's if you're not a comic book character in a movie, what did you do with your life? So it's like I think people like Robert Downey Jr. brought back their careers, where Robert Downey Jr. was kind of sliding off the Hollywood scale, and then they said he was Iron Man, and it was like, damn, I mean, he was like now he's one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So that just brings all that into light, that Stan Lee was iconic. He was a relative more than just somebody that was on the silver screen. I love the fact that you see him in every movie.
Yeah.
Love the fact.
And when he talked to his fans too, he always like made the time to talk to people. He wasn't one of those guys that just signed something and get you off. I've met people like that at even San Diego Comic Con. It's like getting autographs from people and stuff like that, and some of them are very much here you go away, but Stan wasn't one of those guys. He would talk to people, and he would. I mean, there were comic pros who would tell people don't have Stan sign something for you at a convention, because he would, he'd be doing this for hours and hours and hours, and like it took a toll on people who were younger, and he was in his 90s doing this, and you could just see that it was taking a physical toll on him. And so a lot of people are like, look, Stan Lee has signed thousands of things, like go buy it, like it's worth it, just buy it, don't go and have him sign it. But you could get in line and just go talk to him, you wouldn't even have to get anything signed, you could go and meet him. And he loved that. You can tell he loved that. And every video he ever made, he talked about how much he loved going to the cons and talking to even after he announced that he wasn't going to any more cons, he still went to more cons. He was dedicated. And you just don't, like I said, you just don't find that in the comic industry nowadays. Most people, even most of the really popular artists that we grew up with in the 90s, they don't really draw anything anymore. It's really rare that they do, because they can make more money doing sketches on the side and selling them online than they did drawing comic books. So so a lot of the big names, like you'll see a big name in comics, you're like, oh, that's really great. And then after a while, they step out and they don't have to do that anymore. But Stan Lee always stuck with it, and this was his world, and he made the most of it.
It was his world. We got to live in it.
Right. We got to be characters in it.
We got to be characters in it. Now he truly is the one above all.
Yeah, right. He's ascended.
So you got words from it's cold here where we are right now. All right, what do you think? It's about 40 degrees outside.
Yeah,
if that.
Yeah.
Now the next segment you'll see is.
I don't know. I don't leave here.
No, you don't.
This is my nerd museum. Why do I?
Nerd museum. It's coined. It's nerd museum.
Yeah.
But you're gonna hear from this is Tonywhoa. For those of you guys, some of you guys met him on Power Play. Was it a week ago? We were all chatting in the chat room, and Tonywhoa came on. Everybody greeted him, whatever. He's coming all the way from South Florida with his message on Stan Lee. And if you guys didn't know, yes, he is a rapper that just happens to be a Christian. He doesn't title himself a Christian rapper. I don't know. You're a rapper, bro. I know you're going to see this. You're a Christian rapper.
Shout out to Stan Lee for making my childhood fun. Who's my favorite superhero? Stan, you the one. You got to be the dopest in the Marvel Universe. I thank God for your 95 years on this earth. Yeah, man. Stan Lee, he was the bomb, man. I mean, you know, a lot of people just see cartoon characters and superheroes and things like that, but I mean, you don't pay attention to the fact that, like, his characters were, you know, they had issues. You know, they were nerds, they were bullied, you know, all these different things, man. Stan took on a lot of issues that people didn't pay attention to. You know, he even said that, like, the X-Men, you know, coming out in the 60s, you know, was a metaphor for the civil rights movement, man. And, you know, a lot of people compare, you know, Magneto to Malcolm X and Professor X to Dr. King. I mean, and you can see it, man. It's like, okay, coming from two different directions, same mission, you know, and then to come out with the Black Panther, man, and actually have, I mean, come on, a white man writes a comic book about a black superhero, and then that black superhero actually takes on the Klan and kicks the Klan's butt. I mean, that's just dopeness, man. You know, for him to, you know, consider everybody, you know, people who wear glasses and people who are intelligent, people, you know, some of the characters were drunks and the narcissists. I mean, you know, just all these different issues that, you know, Stan was really trying to look out for people. And I think he did a great job of letting us all know that, you know, you're not alone out here and that you can strive to be more and you can fight for what's right. So, man, Stan Lee, in my heart, man, you made my childhood fun. You know, I always wanted to be the Incredible Hulk. So I'm wearing green today. So, hey, you know what I mean? I got my wishes. Holy Spirit, I'm in there, man. So, Trapvision, 3D, Invicta.
Man, I do appreciate you allowing me to come here in this format. As you guys can see, if you can see in the back of this, I know this ain't Stan Lee tribute, but man, he got Transformers for days in here, man.
Transformers started off in Marvel Comics.
That's I think
Issue
it did.
3 had Spider-Man in it.
It did. It did have.
There you have it. Stan Lee has reached out far and wide, and you know what? He wasn't just for the state; he was for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what did you have? You had Russian superheroes, man, Chinese superheroes, man. You had Universal. I don't care what it was. The Amazing Spider-Man, one of my favorites, outside of Wolverine, which I have a tattoo on my arm. You guys will get to see him. Tattoo contest on the cruise 2019. Yeah, they have. I might not win. Last year was some girl. Of course, go figure. Yeah,
there was a guy when I was speaking of that when I was at San Diego Comic-Con who on his arm had a picture of the first appearance of Wolverine, the comic book cover, on his arm. It was pristine. And the guy I was with said, he's like, this is going to sound really crazy, but that guy's had that tattoo for over 10 years, and I know that because I met him at Comic-Con 10 years ago. It was like my first Facebook post, and he went through his pictures and scrolled all the way down, and he got to the very bottom of his first picture was that guy's arm with tattoo. He's like, wow. Look, that's what it looked like, and it hadn't changed, and it was pristine on his arm.
He probably gets it
yeah,
it was colored and everything. Yeah. It was awesome.
Wow.
So that's our time. I appreciate you guys coming and just into the, what do you call this? The museum, the Nerd Museum. Hey, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I appreciate you guys doing that. Hey, what's your story? What's your Stan Lee story? Look in the comments below, man. Go ahead and leave it. I'll post it. You know what I'm saying? We'll revisit this. I know his birthday was a couple days ago, but this is somebody we can celebrate. They might as well just make a Stan Lee Day.
They're trying to. I think they did in one state.
Did they? Like, that should be a national holiday. I'm serious, bro. That should be a national holiday. I mean, we got President's Day. I mean, why can't we have a Stan Lee Day? I'm just saying. You know, we have everything else.
We like Stan Lee more than the president. So it doesn't really matter who's president. I like Stan Lee more than whoever's president. Also, in the comments below, let us know who your favorite Marvel character is, too.
Yes!
How about, I'll even one you up. Who's your favorite Marvel character, and who do you relate to the most? Which character do you relate to the most? Because it might not be the same. So.
Please, hey, leave those comments. Y'all heard you being challenged, man. Come on. Now, listen, I tell you what. Whoever gives me the best story. And if you're going on a cruise, you got a $25 gift card coming your way. You can spend it on whatever, drinks, seafood, I don't care, whatever it is. But you come see me on the cruise, you get it from me February 22nd, all right? Till then, y'all already know, take care of each other. Be blessed.